Hello, Soul Family. We have an exciting announcement. We have been feeling so aligned and so connected to everyone in our human design readings. And this time, as you know, and you're probably feeling, is really turbulent and a lot is changing. A lot is stretching, right? And so we have just felt called to open up more availability for our human design readings, which we've never done before. Normally, we are booked up so many months in advance, and we have just been seeing in our readings how impactful they have been. We've done a lot of family readings lately and couples readings, but also a ton of individual readings. And I feel like they are the most impactful now more than ever because of how intense the energy is collectively right now. And it's just always a reminder like, wow, this is why we are doing this work. And this is so needed. I always feel like when I've gotten a reading in general, but also giving readings, like you learn so much in that reading that it's like going to 10 years of therapy. Like you get so much information. It really touches in on your purpose and your gifts and how to address your current roadblocks, like what you can really lean into now to see actual change in your life. And getting to see yourself through the lens of human design, especially the way that we really like to focus on it, it's just honestly the biggest gift that you can give yourself. So, we wanted to open up more availability, more dates. So if you're feeling called and you're listening to this, like, wow, I really need that reflection and that support in this way, and you're feeling like your authority says yes, I encourage you to check out the link in our show notes or go to daylunalife.com and book a reading with us while we have space available. We would love to meet with you and get to support you in this way if that's what you're feeling is needed at this time.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to do more one-on-one readings because out of all of our offerings that we create, one of the biggest challenges is that human design is so unique and specific to each person. So when we're in a reading container, we get to answer all of your questions with all of the nuances of your design. Like you might have aspects of your design that are somewhat contrasting or polarizing. So when you're navigating big times of change, it's really important that you understand how those nuances come together. And we've just been feeling lately like the conversations we've gotten to have in readings, even if we've done a reading for someone a couple times before and they book a third reading, it's like, okay, now we can get even deeper into making sure you feel extremely empowered on exactly how you're meant to navigate life as it's changing, as things are in flux, as things are feeling a little bit overwhelming. It's such a grounding force. And what's really beautiful and what I'm really grateful for is even in these times of immense change and a lot is happening that needs to be processed, it's even more important that we're anchored into our true self and our inner authority. And I just feel so deeply grateful for human design in our own lives. It's like literally the anchoring rod that keeps us feeling confident and grounded and connected to spirit, even in these times of change. So we're just really grateful that we get to do this work. And in a one-on-one reading, we get to build such incredible, deep bonds and connection. And it just creates so much inspiration and safety in our collective to be able to see one another in that realm. And also, as these times are changing, we're getting closer to the new paradigm. There's so much shifting. A lot of outer planet energy is shifting. So we're in like new eras, right? In that time, I feel like our minds can really cling on to ideas that try to keep us safe or that try to control the narrative. And we feel a lot of mental anxiety because of that. So for Shayna and I, one of the biggest practices that we've been coming back to is actually working with our perspective and motivation, our mental perspective and motivation, which comes from PHS or the primary health system of human design, which is kind of like the deeper layer of human design that dives into the 4 variable arrows in your body graph chart. And then it goes even deeper in that to tell you your diet, your correct environment, and then that mental perspective you're meant to view the world with. That one specifically is one of the biggest game changers in my personal journey because my perspective in PHS is wanting, which means I am designed to see in the world what people are wanting to be happy and fulfilled, right? In that more emotional realm. And when I'm focused on seeing those issues, on seeing those things, on taking in that inspiration, I feel so mentally sharp and clear and grounded and ready to then create with my motivation. And my not self of my wanting perspective is survival and looking at, are we going to survive the shifts that are happening as we build a new earth? Are we going to have clean water for our future generations? Like when I get into that sort of distraction or not self for my mind personally, I feel so anxious and disheartened and overwhelmed. And I feel like my mind's trying to grasp onto things and control things. So just having that self awareness for myself has honestly been one of the number one things that I'm working on. And so, in that light, we've been feeling really inspired to present PHS to our community in a more accessible way. So we're deciding to do a PHS course sale. We have a sale that's going to be 15% off only from April 1st to April 6th. And with this 15% off, you get a self-paced PHS course that can really be done in one full-on day if you want to. That's sort of how we designed it, where you can do robe life and get your cacao and get a safe place where you can just dive in with your notebook, and you can finish it in one day if that's what you wanted to do. Or you can self-pace and watch it as much as, whenever it works for you. But it dives into all four of the variable arrows of PHS, that deeper layer that really tells you how, everything about diet, everything about environment, all of the colors and tones, and that more mental health side, mental support side of your perspective and motivation.
Yes. So if you are wanting to know this information just for yourself and your friends and family, that's amazing. But also, it's a really great resource if you have any type of business or clients that you're working with, because you can use this information to help them really feel grounded in their mind and release that anxiety or that mental pressure, because maybe they're trying to swim upstream or force things or in their not self with their mental outlook. And it's so incredibly helpful to know what these are and to really get an understanding of how we're all meant to see the world and how we all have our different lenses that we're meant to look through. And it's one of my favorite things in human design. So we have that sale for 15% off. And if you are somebody who is like, I love human design, I am wanting to learn the whole system and I'm wanting to really weave this into my business or take on clients or add it into, my current thing that I'm offering, then if you're feeling called to take our human design reader training, what we're offering right now is the PHS course added on for free. So if you're wanting to dive into the full system, then you can dive into the training and get that PHS course added on for free right now between April 1st and April 6th. So there's several different offerings. If you're like, I just need a reading and I need my support and that way, great. Book a reading with us. We'd love to meet with you and support you in whatever way you're needing right now most. Or if you're like, you know what, I want to be able to support myself and my friends and family mentally right now and physically and really supporting my physical body, great. The PHS course is perfect for you. And if you're like, I want to dive into this whole freaking system, amazing. The human design reader training with that added on PHS course might be the best fit for you. So we encourage you to use your authority as always and see what feels most supportive for you right now. And if just listening to this podcast is what that is, amazing. We love you. We see you. We really just want you to feel confident and grounded in who you are as we're navigating so much change together as a collective. And we are excited for the future direction. I feel like we are on this freaking rocket ship right now or a shooting
Yeah.
star. And we are all just like,
Oh,
damn, here we go. Jeez. I mean, we are on a shooting star, I guess. Like, maybe the
we're
earth
we're
is.
orbiting around our star, the sun, which is shooting through the expanding atmosphere of
There you
space.
go. Yes, yes. So if you're feeling called, you can check everything out on daylunalife.com. And also in the show notes below, there are some links for you. And now let's get into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the DayLuna Human Design Podcast with your hosts, Dana and Shayna. Today, we are talking all about the undefined G Center. And this is a pep talk. This is some advice. This is breaking down what it really means to have an undefined G. And I think that anyone with an undefined G center really needs some extra love because the world was not built to support you. Whether you're a mangen or a generator or a manifestor or whatever with an undefined G, you are going to feel this sense of who am I? Where do I belong? Where am I going? Where do I find love? Where do I find myself? Am I this person? Am I that person? And so our world really is always telling us, know who you are, be yourself, um, you know, be really direct about where you're going, be linear. And that's really not the way for the undefined G. So we're going to break it down. We're going to pep you up. And right now, we are just prepping for Egypt, and we're about to head off there in 2 weeks from now, which is nuts, but we are going a week early. We're going to Paris for a week before, so that way Isla can get on the time zone, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to this trip. It feels like a G Center, um, prophecy for me because my my defined G center, my G center authority literally knew this is on our path. I think I was like 2 months postpartum and I was doing this like medical healing red light therapy for my body, and I was laying in there and I just had crystal clear vision and knowing like we are going to Egypt and doing a human design journey through these sacred lands. And I called Dana up and I was like, hey, just want to let you know that we're going to Egypt. My G Center knows, just planting the seed with your emotional authority. And here we are. We're going, and literally, it's like one of those things that I had no choice. Like
Yeah,
my
I feel
G
the
Center just
same.
like knew and was, this is on your path. And it's like, okay, well, it's on my path. I have no choice. And I feel that way about having a second child too. Like my G Center knows, like, I'm going to have a second child, but my body right now and my brain and my emotions and my postpartum everything is like, fuck no, I'm not having another child. I'm done. All of the like baby shit in my garage that Isla's already grown out of. I'm like, can we just sell this or give it away or chuck it? Like, but no, because I know that we're going to have another baby. So now it's just going to take up space in my garage. And my G Center is the boss right now. And right now, like the whole rest of my life, who am I kidding?
And always has been. And for anyone who is not that familiar with the human design body graph, the G center is the center that looks like a diamond in the middle of your body graph. And it is the place where your magnetic monopole resides. So you have this sacred GPS for all of us, whether you have a defined or colored in G center or an undefined G center. Either way, all of us have a magnetic monopole in that center that guides us through our life. And when we follow our inner authority, we are allowing that magnet to pull us where we're meant to be on our unique life path, on our unique direction. So Shayna and I both have defined G centers. And for Shayna, her G center is the center that rules her authority. It's the place where her authority comes from as a self-projected projector, or as she likes to call it, G center authority. And so this center that is calling you for your direction. For both of us, having a defined G center, it's like that sometimes where we just know our direction that we're headed in. For me, like years beforehand, or even like if I look back on my life, I sort of feel like I knew my direction all along, even though it wasn't conscious or in my mind or something I could speak about. It was sort of this distinctive flavor or frequency or pull that I felt inside of me. So I agree with this connotation about Egypt being like something that we were not, it didn't isn't even something we chose. It was something that was just on our path that we're directed to, that was spirit led. And our authorities were like, yes, hell yes, even though our minds were like, what? And how fast and how long? And I just wanted to say that when you called me at that red light, after that red light therapy, and you were in meditation, you called me so excited. I was with Lexa, who is coming to our Egypt retreat. She comes to all of our retreats to help on our team. And she was there and she was like, Shayna means business. Like what she just said is true. And I'm like, yeah, the G Center don't lie. And it's so funny because Alexa's one of my closest friends that has an undefined G Center. And so in her life, she doesn't have that same defined G Center. Like, this is my direction. This is where my arrow's pointing. This is where my map is taking me. It's so much more about like life inviting her and surprising her, and different people inviting her into different places. And so she does human design when she's with us, and she's a human design reader, and all of these different things. So it's funny to see the interplay of all of our G centers that are coming together on our team going to Egypt, like our G centers being so direct and knowing, and her G center being pulled in by ours and conditioned by ours. And her undefined G, she can totally go with the flow. And so I think it's so fitting that this whole conversation, us going to Egypt, talking about the G center, and also one of the big connections to the G center in human design is the Sphinx. So anyone that has like the same cross as Shayna, all of those gates in the G center, she's the right angle cross of the Sphinx. And obviously, the Sphinx is this mystical, ancient energy from Egypt that is a compass that is directing us towards our path and connecting us back to the source where we are guided. So, I also think that that's another really fascinating correlation of speaking about the G center today. But honestly, what the reason that we felt so called to do this episode in this timing is just because we're always observing our friends and our clients and our community. And we're always really asking the question, what do we wish people knew about human design that could totally change their life? We're always looking for that. Like, what are the areas where people are really needing support? What are the areas that we see people in our lives getting really tripped up by? And how can we offer more content and more support through a human design perspective that's really going to alleviate those challenges and alleviate that suffering? And by far, one of the greatest things that we've been observing lately is the challenges that can come with an undefined G center. So that was our inspiration of diving into this today. And this is a big topic because about 43% of the population has an undefined G center. Now, what does this mean? It means that you have no fixed, consistent, and reliable sense of identity, right? You don't have one linear, this is who I am and what I'm interested in and what I love and what I'm passionate about and who I identify as. There's not just one path for you, right? Your path is meant to be undefined. It's meant to change. It's meant to flow. You are inherently meant to be able to interact with other people's passions and path and direction and take that on and try on their direction for size and literally become or share temporarily in their life direction, in their identity, in their path. That is what's right for you with an undefined G center. So you do not need parameters around who you are and what you identify as and the passions that you have, even. You're really meant to be flowing and open and connecting to other people. Just like we would think of a reflector, anyone with an undefined G center, you're going to have a lot of those mirroring qualities. And so much of your journey of your life depends on the people that you're around and their purpose, direction, love, passion, all of that stuff that you're taking in and temporarily amplifying and experiencing within your own life.
Yeah, and this is that, chameleon energy that we think of with any of the undefined centers, right? You are taking in someone else's defined center there and amplifying it and trying it on for size, right? So some people do that, they chameleon with people's emotions, or they do that with people's instincts or intuition, or they do that with people's minds and they really take on other people's perspectives, right? But if you have an undefined G center, this is like the traditional, I think, idea of a chameleon where you are literally blending in and adapting with the people that you interact with, and you can fit in with most people, and you can literally reinvent your clothing style, your taste in music, your focus at your work, or different careers that you want to do. You literally are meant to shapeshift or chameleon into different identities throughout your life, and that can feel to a lot of people really confusing and ungrounding, even like, well, who am I if I'm not like my best friend in this way? Well, then what am I if I'm not interested in this anymore because maybe it's moved past me or something new is coming out? Like, is that going to be flaky or inconsistent? um you can feel this pull to really figure out who you are and look to outside resources to figure out what your identity is, looking to gurus to solve your problem or to tell you who it is that you are. And really, you are this person that is meant to adapt and chameleon and shapeshift and reinvent yourself as you're feeling called to. If you try to box yourself in with this undefined G center, you're always going to feel stuck. You're always going to feel out of alignment and you're not self, whatever that is for your type. So, really knowing, okay, I am meant to have that flow and that inconsistency. I'm meant to shift. And it doesn't mean that I'm not growing. It doesn't mean that I'm not moving towards my purpose. It doesn't mean that I'm not on my path. Your path is just meant to be winding upward versus other people. It's like going straight upward. And that brings so much beauty and wisdom and connection and clarity and all of the different colors that we are here to see and experience and feel. You're doing that through your sense of self and through your love and through your soul ultimately.
Yeah, I always like to use this metaphor that if you think about your body as your vehicle and your magnetic monopole is the driver that's guiding you down your life, someone with a defined G center like Shayna and I have a straight road. That life path is sort of like a straight road. And there might be challenges, there might be uphills and downhills and crashes along the way or whatever it is. But there's like one path, and you can almost see on the horizon like where you're going, even without really knowing, right? Someone that has an undefined G center, their vehicle is going down their life path as a winding road. And it's like they stop on this turn and they look at the beach, and then they take this scenic route and they go through the mountains, and then they take this scenic route and now they're in the desert, and they have this winding, diverse life path or life road. And it takes them to their destination, but there's just more variety and diversity along the way. Now, when we talk about it that way, it's like fun. I want to be on the scenic route. I don't want to be on the like freeway that's just like boring and basic. So if you can harness that joy and passion and excitement for all of the different turns and the scenic route, that's really the goal with this. And to know that neither one is better or worse, they're just totally different ways of navigating life. So the main piece of advice that we like to tell people that have an undefined G center is you are meant to have a lot of different interests based on who you've been around, based on your current community or the people that you're engaging with. So, if you are a creator, if you have your own business or anything that you're doing, allow yourself to be multifaceted. A lot of people that have an undefined G center, let's say you're a projector with an undefined G, or you're a generator with an undefined G, we hear those people say, why do I resonate with being a man gen and having all of these different passions and all of these different interests? The first thing we look at is, well, do you have an undefined G? Yes, you do. That means you're meant to have a lot of different interests, right? Your road is meant to be windy. You have all of the different views on the scenic route. Embrace that. That is one of your best ways that you can free yourself is stop confining yourself and making yourself stick to one modality or one interest or one passion and allow the sky to be the limit. And also, if you were super into, let's say, nutrition, and now you're just over it and you're in a new era of life. You're now really into astrology. Allow yourself to change and don't pigeonhole yourself. That is our greatest kind of takeaway that you can give yourself as far as what you're sharing with the world and the way that you're allowing yourself to play with those different interests.
Yeah. And, we see a lot of times people with an undefined G feeling like, well, in high school or in college, I was really into this thing and I got my master's in this thing. And now that maybe you're around completely different people or you live in a different town, even, you're not even interested in that thing, but you feel this guilt or this shame or confusion around, like, well, should I recommit to this thing that I signed up for that I was once really passionate? Is there something wrong with me that I'm not passionate about this thing that I used to be so in love with? And the answer is no. Like you are meant to expand, right? The more things that you lean into because you just feel connected with them and you feel like, oh, this is me, right? Like this is me right now. Letting yourself do it and play with it and see that scenic view off of that road, right? Versus trying to like look the other way because you're supposed to be focused on something that's in the rear view mirror. You're not. You're meant to be flowing and multifaceted. So huge permission slip to let yourself expand and chameleon. So important. And then the other big thing that is so important for undefined Gs is that you are very sensitive to environments. So just like a reflector, if you're in the wrong place, you're with the wrong people, you're going to feel out of alignment. If you are feeling like your environment, or you're feeling less of who you are, you're feeling unhealthy in your body, you're feeling pulled away from your sense of purpose or love, then a lot of times it's because your environment is not healthy for you. So making your environment feel good is so important, meaning if you don't like how the room feels, change something, paint the walls, bring in plants. If you go into a new place that you're thinking about living, feel like, does this feel healthy in my body? Does this feel like a safe place for me to belong? If those answers aren't there, if that's not a yes, then it's not the right environment for you. If you're around people that make you feel stuck, then you're honestly around the wrong people. So tell your loved ones what you're looking for and what you like, and let them invite you into environments that are really healthy. So, for example, this is kind of similar to a reflector if you're familiar with reflector's energy, but if you are in a job that you feel is really draining you, tell your friends and family, this is draining me and this is why. And what I'm really wanting to feel, what I'm really wanting to look for next, is A, B, C, and D. And you'll find them finding that for you first versus you feeling like you have to go out and seek and push and um, always yearning for something that's not there. And this is a little confusing because having an undefined G center, there can be this yearning where you feel like the answers are always around the corner. They're always out there that you have to seek. Love is always out there that you have to find, but you haven't found it yet. Belonging or who you are is somewhere, some guru, something is going to tell you who that is. And ultimately, you come to this realization that you are home and that you are love, and all of the things that you are seeking, the guru, whatever, is you. And so when you start sharing with friends and family, they can bring outside resources to you to support you. But that confidence and that home feeling is going to be something that you cultivate within yourself. And you can't do that if you are in an environment that feels like trash to you. So, first step would be looking at your home. Does it feel actually really good to you or not? Changing what you can, moving if you need to. Are you in a job environment that feels good to you or not? Changing what you can, shifting your job if you need to. Are the people around you feeling really good to you or not that you spend a lot of your time with? Shifting what you can, changing friends or finding a different community, whether that's online or in person, going to different, starting to eat at different restaurants or going to different cafes until you feel like, okay, this just feels like a good environment in general. Really prioritizing that is so important.
Yes. Okay, so the next thing that's really important for anyone with
Mhm.
an undefined G is relationships. This is the big one. If you have an undefined G center, then when you're entering into a new relationship, you can really take on the other person's identity. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes we're attracted to someone that's the opposite. So a lot of times, if you have an undefined G, you're going to be attracted to someone who has a defined G, and then their identity, you're going to take that on for size and try it on for size, I mean, and also you're going to see the highest potential of their passions and their life path and the direction that they could take. And it's really easy to fall in love with someone else's highest potential and to make that your whole life and your whole identity. And then a year later or 2 years later, you realize, oh, wait, they're not living as their highest potential. And also, me taking on their whole life path was not actually right for me and didn't align with my truth and didn't align with my actual strategy and authority. So it's just really important to be aware that no matter what, you are taking in other people's life path, and that is part of your gift. But in a relationship specifically, if you're entering into it incorrectly or from any form of not self, it can get really messy. And you can sort of feel like you fall in love with an illusion of someone instead of who they really are. So being aware of that is very helpful. And also, having a bit of detached energy with falling in love or with starting new relationships is really healthy in general. If you're clinging on to where can I find love because I'll find an identity there that I can try on for size and that'll make me feel more secure, that's always going to lead to not self and a lot of discord and dis-ease in your body and in your life. And if instead you say, I am the love that I need, and my exploration of life and all of the things I can experience is my direction, right? I don't need one direction to find myself. I don't need one person's love to feel like I'm worthy of love. If you can have that detached stance and really source that love from within and find a true like spiritual love within yourself, then it's way easier to kind of move into relationships and see them for what they really are instead of sort of clinging on or grasping on to illusions or highest potentials that are not really there. So we always like to say with someone with an undefined G, like you can be hands off with love. Instead, fall in love with yourself, date yourself, get really clear on what you want, the type of person you want, how you want to feel. And once again, tell your friends and family that and allow them to invite you to the right places where you'll meet that person or to introduce you with someone. But the big thing is just be really aware if you're grasping on to love or seeking it or trying to find it. And also be really aware when you enter into a new relationship how you're seeing someone else's identity and trying that on for size, but not getting lost from yourself in trying on their identity.
Yeah. I always like to say, for undefined G's in relationships or in dating, like give your phone to your best friend that really sees you and knows you and loves you. Give your phone to them and let them swipe through the dating apps for you because they're going to be able to match you with somebody that is a better fit than you may be matching with somebody who's you're falling in love with their higher potential. Um, so that can always just be a fun experiment to play with and see how you feel. It's interesting watching like reality shows or whatever. I can always see who is an
Same.
undefined G. I just watched Love is Blind for I'm like behind. Everybody else just already binged it. But I just caught up and I got Brian into it. He'd never seen the show and I made him watch it with me. And then he would not turn it off. Like literally, he couldn't. We went to bed at like midnight several times because he was like, I'm into it. Like you created a monster. I'm like, I can go to bed. I don't care anymore. Anyways, side tangent. Um, it's just so obvious to see people dating like on a dating show like
Yeah.
that where they're one way with this person, but then another way with this person. They seem to change or shift who they are around each person, and that's really good for them to do, and there's so much judgment around that, but then if you reframe it or you tell people like, "Yeah, I'm meant to be able to fit in with anyone and connect with many different types of people," then it's seen as a good thing, right? So, really just knowing freedom and having that, ability to explore and try on different things and let yourself be different and playful with different people, that's that's the goal, and, just not you'll know when you're boxing yourself in, whether you're doing that with one person or whether you're doing that with one career or whatever that is. It's always about noticing like, "Oh, I've boxed myself in. Okay, how can I expand into letting myself shift, letting myself have multifaceted interests or people in my life. It doesn't mean that you can't be monogamous. You absolutely can, but it's not identifying with your partner or identifying that, you are the best wife or the best partner ever to this person. Not getting lost in that relationship, but instead seeing it as one of your facets that you have in your life that you get to play with.
And speaking of characters, I always am watching like reality TV, but also shows with a character, and I'm like, they have an undefined G center, which I feel like you still haven't seen Nobody Wants This with Kristen Bell.
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's so cute, Shayna. You have to watch it. Anyways, I feel like a lot of people listening have, and like the main character, I don't want to give anything away, but Kristen Bell's character, she meets someone who's Jewish and she's not Jewish, and they really fall in love and like want to actually be together forever, but she would have to convert to Judaism. And her character is like, everyone's like, well, you've changed a lot in your life. Like, you had a goth phase for a few years, you were a lesbian for a year. Like, I think you could be Jewish now. And I'm like, she has this character, such an undefined G, but she really, I mean, I don't want to ruin the story, but she really does put the brakes on and ask herself, like, am I getting wrapped up in what his life is and what I could be around him? Or am I really doing something that's right for me? So if anyone hasn't watched that show,
And
highly
you're an
recommend.
undefined G, you have to. It's a masterclass. I'm just kidding.
It really is. Anyways, um,
I love it.
and if you're in a long-term relationship with an undefined G person, like not entering in, but you've been in for a long time, allowing that person to be free to change and grow and change their identity is the way that you love them. That's huge. I feel like I can speak for myself. Like, I found myself even wanting to hold people to who I knew they were in the past or who I saw them be in the past. And when I see them shift or change, it's like confusing. And so without really realizing it, you try to stop that because they make more sense to you if they were the person you knew before. And I feel like that happens whether you're a defined G or not. Cause like, even if you're a defined G, you're still going to grow and change. Your identity is going to evolve. It just happens more slowly over time. Whereas someone with an undefined G, like, it could change in a month, it could change in a year, it could change really drastically or a lot of different times. And so no matter what, a human lesson is allowing people to evolve and grow. But if you're in a relationship with an undefined G, allow them to evolve and grow quickly and a lot and in completely different directions. Like, that is how you love them. They need that freedom to expand and change. And in fact, have fun with it. Be playful, like really cheer them on in that. That's how they receive love.
Yes. And I do just want to add that if you have an undefined G, you are not without direction. You still have this internal GPS. Your magnetic monopole is always working and it's always pulling you towards where you're meant to be. It's just that your path isn't meant to be direct and singular, like we were saying in the beginning. It's meant to be influenced by the people that you're talking to and taking you here and taking you there. So I almost want to say with that analogy of the car, like you're hitchhiking and you're hopping into this person's car and then you're hopping into that person's car and you're meant to jump from car to car and have fun with it and meet so many amazing people along the way and see life, experience life in so many different ways. Um, and what is consistent for you is that you are gifted at empathetically feeling people's life path, their purpose, and their life direction. So we see a lot of people with an undefined G who are incredible life coaches. And whether you're a life coach or not, you're a life coach with this energy, right? Like you are so good at seeing people and saying, wow, you're really good at this and you're so talented at that. Why don't you do this? And that the other person feels like, wow, you really see me. And I never even thought about that. You give incredible advice about people's life path and their journey and their purpose and their direction. So, letting yourself be sensitive to that, giving that advice, it's always going to feel like such a gift to other people. You're really able to vibe with many different types of people. I cannot say that for myself. I remember being in jobs where
Same.
I was supposed to, be at a work party or a work event and feeling like I cannot talk to this influencer right now. Like I literally will die. And I
Same.
would go to the bathroom at the work event and stay in there because I would rather tell people that like I had to poop than like interact. Like straight up, like I would spend an hour in the bathroom, like I had a tummy ache, but really I just literally could not fit in with these people. And now I know it's because I'm not meant to. Whereas if you have an undefined G, you're meant to. So I'm not saying that you have to love networking or love influencers or whatever, but you are meant to be able to say like, oh, interesting, this person feels different, let me explore that. Whereas I say this person feels different and it feels like I might implode. um
Yeah.
so it's
Same.
it's just such a different energy.
Honestly, this point right here is one of the reasons that I really am a little bit envious sometimes of people with an undefined G. Like my friends that have undefined Gs, I see them go hang out at this party and then with this friend group, and then they go to this retreat with this type of people that are interested in, working out or nutrition, and then they go to a completely different, human design retreat, and they can vibe with so many different types of people and have so many different experiences and make friends on so many different walks of life and levels. And it's like all of it is adding to their life experience and adding to the experiences that they get to enjoy with other people, specifically like the communities that they can feel at home with or connected with. And I do not feel that way at all. I feel the same as you, that like when I go into a room with people who are really different than me, I just feel like, I don't know, like uh, s- uh, someone that just can't hide it either. Like it's on my face the whole time. Like I just feel like an alien and I can't even for 1 second pretend that I can get in, and it's uncomfortable sometimes. And so I just think that if you have an undefined G center, it's so important to celebrate this because as we're saying, a lot of the world is not, a lot of the advice that you get, a lot of the things that you'll read about in books will not apply to you. But this one thing, it's like so important to celebrate this. And in fact, I'm really ready for more advice and more books written by people with undefined G centers that are more playful and expansive in their identities, because it is such a fun thing to be around. It's such a fun thing to witness in other people. So celebrate yourself for that. And another thing for undefined G centers that's really consistent for you, something that you can practice, is to be discerning with environments. It's like that's going to be a consistent theme in your life, is that I have to make sure I feel good in the environments that I'm in, that I'm shifting my environment to feel good for me, and that I'm not gripping onto certain environments that are not healthy for me just because they feel familiar. Right. And this is such a like reflector thing to say because it's literally all reflectors are going to have this undefined G center. But for any type that has this undefined G center, be discerning about environments. That is a consistent theme for you. And you are someone who can really create beautiful environments that feel really good because you are so sensitive to that energy. And then lastly, what's consistent for you with an undefined G center is your strategy and authority and all of the definition in your chart. Those are the things that you can focus on, that you can rely on, that will lead you to the direction that you're meant to be in. So it's not that you don't have a sense of direction or that you don't have a direction you're meant to be in. You absolutely do. And you find it through following your strategy and authority. And that is going to take you on your amazing winding path where you're hitchhiking in different cars and you're seeing different scenic routes. And that is something that you're here to appreciate and to really experience in this lifetime. So, for everyone listening with an undefined G center, we'd love to hear from you. How has your experience been with this? Like a lot of people that we've met, they feel like this is one of the biggest practices in their human design chart, is just letting go of the conditioning to be one thing or to never change or to find their path and stick with it. And I think that this is a really liberating thing to celebrate about yourself. So thank you for tuning in today. We're excited to hear from you, what your experience has been with your undefined G center. And yeah, any last words, Shayna?
Um, no, I'm just excited. I feel like all the undefined G's in the world just need to live and let love and be free and play and bring that expansive energy to the world. It's so beautiful and amazing. I love undefined G peeps. So hopefully this felt like the pep talk that you needed to just go be a sparkly rainbow bitch. And yeah, we love you. I'm nursing my baby right now. And we're just sending so much love. As always, you know where you can find all of our offerings on daylunalife.com, on our Instagram at dayluna, and in Besties, your human design besties, our membership. That's on our website too. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to connect in person. And we are just sending you so much love. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to follow along and learn more about human design.